through your findings, what have you noticed that's different about young breast cancer patients' experiences?
Well, I think probably one of the biggest differences. There are many, many things that make it different. Um, Many young women are starting different parts of their lives. Maybe they're just getting going in their career. Maybe they wanted to start a family. Um, Maybe they were dating and just about to get married. To have at that moment a diagnosis of such an incredibly dangerous disease is different. Not, it doesn't, I'm not at all putting down older women by any means. My mother was diagnosed the same year I was, but our experiences were so different because she already had her family. She'd already had her career and had her husband of many, many years. And so it showed a real difference between the two of us just because of our ages.
Can
It's an
you
interesting.
tell our audience how old your mom was and how old you were in that same year?
Yep. I was 36 when I was diagnosed, and my mother was 66 when she was diagnosed.
Wow.
And she took the month of January, and I took the month of August in 2010. So we joke that
Wow.
2010 was our year.
That is remarkable. Wendy and her brother-in-law were diagnosed with different cancers on the same exact day in the same phone call. We tipped each other off. And
Oh,
what families go through together, right? When they're
wow.
struggling with cancer is just remarkable. Wendy was 42 when she went through it, and what we were concerned about was naturally survivability, right? Life expectancy,
Of course.
personalized treatment based off of results from like the Oncotype DX test, and
Sure.
making sure that Wendy's reconstruction options really enabled her to continue to feel sexy like she's always been. Is your experience, or is our experience, excuse me, different from other young survivors?
Gosh, no. I think for everybody, it is about figuring out that new normal. You didn't ask for new normal. You're probably pretty happy with the old normal. But now it needs to change, and for everybody, that's different. But those challenges are very real. If my husband was on the call with us, he would be nodding right now and say, yes, 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 yes. Certainly very similar.
Well, we had concerns, right? Naturally, we wanted to make sure that we had a long and healthy life together. We wanted to make sure that the scars were minimal. I think a lot of young patients have those concerns. Talk to us about the Young Survival Coalition and what type of support
Mhm.
does YSC provide to patients?
Sure, absolutely. YSC is really, I always say, about three things. It's about education. We want survivors to understand what makes breast cancer as a young woman different than an older woman, because in many cases, they're the ones educating their doctors, unfortunately. Um, we want them to be educated about things like the oncotype. We want them to be educated about fertility and how important it is to ask those questions before you start any sort of treatment and start those conversations. So education is a huge part. Empowerment is also probably, I'd say, the second largest part of YSC, what we're about. And that can come from a lot of different things we do, whether it's taking your body back from breast cancer and riding 200 miles on your bike through our Tour de Pink events. Whether it's educating yourself about the science and really empowering yourself to understand this disease that you're now battling. There's so many different ways we like to empower our young survivors. And then YSC, really, I would say the third core piece of YSC is around connecting young women. We focus on connecting one-on-one. If you want to talk to somebody who has a very similar diagnosis or similar age or similar situation, we will find that person for you and connect you so that you can talk to each other in a way that only that other person could understand. We connect women online. We have the largest online bulletin board that exists in the world for young women with breast cancer. So young women 24 hours a day can hop on and be asking questions of each other and researching and reading what other women have gone through. And then we connect women in person around the country. We use Meetup, and we have groups everywhere, completely national, and more are being set up every day. So if you want to get together on a Saturday night and have a cocktail together, great. If you want to get together on Tuesday night because you have moms with, survivors with small kids, awesome. YSC will pay for the whole thing. We just want you to be together, be connected, and that's really how you're going to help survive.
That's fantastic of all that connecting, because just knowing that you have support gets you through a lot of things, and to be able to connect to a like-minded individual going through the exact same thing. Okay, Jennifer, can you tell us about, just give us a little synopsis about your breast cancer journey and what really inspired you to start this whole Young Survivor Coalition?
Well, first, just quick clarification. I didn't start it. YSC is 16 years old. It was the first organization in the United States focused on young adult cancer. And we just focused on breast cancer, but really paved the way and pioneered that space for so many groups that now focus on young adults with cancer. So I was hired as their CEO actually after I had been diagnosed, become part of the community. And really what that was about was shifting my professional experience, which had been in the environmental movement, over to the cancer movement. So, I like to say that running the business of YSC is the easy part. Learning the world of cancer is the hard part for me. So a little bit about me. Yeah, my mom was January, as I mentioned. It was all about learning what cancer was. I knew nothing about it. I just knew it was a terrible word that meant you were going to die, or I thought that's what it meant. And she lives in California, and I was flying back and forth to be a part of her chemos, be a part of her surgeries, be on that journey with her and my father and my brother. And while I was talking to her on the phone one evening, I actually found my own lump, which was just unbelievable. And I thought the only thing I really had going for me was that young women didn't get breast cancer. So I figured that that lump must really be nothing. So I was pretty shocked, which I think most of us are, if you're not involved in the cancer world. And my mom just does what moms do. She just flipped a switch. She told her doctor, you stop my key. I am done. I'm getting on an airplane and I'm going to New York. And she was here for 3 months, stood by my side all the way through my part of the journey. We just flipped coasts. We really survived it together, which was very powerful.
Very powerful, my goodness.
The experience is, I think what's so remarkable about the Young Survivor Coalition is that, about how genuine it is that you want to get involved. You want somebody involved with you going through it. You were lucky to have your mom and to be able to bond. Wendy and I were so fortunate to have each other and this breast cancer answers community that we had already built prior to Wendy being diagnosed. And when I was with you at the San Antonio Breast Cancer Symposium, I was talking with one of your members, I don't know, a young survivor who was in the Phoenix area, and you put us in contact, and it was so inspiring to me because it was still very new and raw what I was going through, and that was my first event after what Wendy and I went through. And it was so inspiring to me that a member of your team cared so deeply about what we were going through, that you guys were available to help us in our community. And it's remarkable that you provide that. Talk about the scope of young survivors that are out there to help guide and meet up. Talked about the scope across the country. How do you guys manage all that?
Well, I think it's not a membership group because you we don't want actually anyone to join. We would love it if nobody got breast cancer under, as a young woman. But unfortunately that happens. So, I like to sometimes joke if I'm with a bunch of survivors to say this is the coolest club in New York City, the worst initiation fee ever. But it is a sisterhood. Once you're in, when do you meet another survivor and you suddenly can just talk a young survivor in a way that you really can't. It's even hard sometimes to talk to your husband and be able to talk about different parts of your body and how they've changed. And so I think the power of YSC is in the community and is in this sisterhood. I think, and we use the word sisterhood a lot because it is certainly something that's like a sister. You're with forever.
Jennifer, moments ago you mentioned that young patients are often teaching their physicians as they go through, and I smiled at Wendy at that moment because we were really teaching our physicians. An example of that is, our surgeon strongly recommended that Wendy start chemo, and right after surgery, and
get my port installed in 2 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, they really wanted to escalate it. In fact, but we knew about the Oncotype DX test, and we wanted to make sure that the Oncotype DX test was done before we installed the port, before we went to the next step. Our surgeon really wasn't that excited about that option, but what we discovered is Wendy had a very low recurrence score and didn't need chemo. Can you talk to us about that? Like, what is the role of that? Right on, Wendy. What is the why are we teaching our doctors? Do you have any thoughts on that?
I do. But first, before we get into that, Wendy, you and I should just sit down and have a glass of wine because the same thing happened to me.
Yes, let's do it.
I cut my hair off, which was such a bummer because it was so long, and I cut it off because I was like, hey, I got this chemo thing. I just did it with my mom, but the only difference was my surgeon insisted I get the Oncotype. And my score was, I don't know, like a 4 or something so low that it shifted everything really, really fast. So I also did not do chemo. That doesn't mean that it wasn't hard because there was a lot of other things that happened. And I think there's some work we all have to do in educating the community about what fertility treatment is like. Not fertility, I'm sorry, hormonal treatment versus chemo. And
are you on tamoxifexy?
Yes, tamoxifexy, or I was instantly put into menopause and kept there for 2.5 years with a shot in my stomach every month. And as a lot of my girlfriends say, I would take chemo any day over what the hell you have been through for 2.5 years. And so I'm not. One story is it's not a competition by any means. It never is. But I think the point is that stories are different. And experiences are different, and it's all about listening and learning and being able to help each other.
And for those of you who are watching, we're now in this era of personalized treatment decisions, and we're so fortunate to be there. Jennifer Merschdorf mentioned that she was a 4, right?
Yeah.
And when she that's her recurrence score. So when you have the Oncotype DX test, the test will help you and your physician determine the likelihood or the aggressiveness of your specific cancer. My lovely wife, she may look like a 10, but she scored an 11, which is 1 more. And it was, when we got our test back, it was really, Wendy, tell me if I'm wrong, it was the apex moment of the entire breast cancer journey. And we were praying for a 13.
My favorite number, so.
Which is Wendy's lucky number. And when we got an 11, we were just bawling. And after like 30 minutes, we decided, I looked at her and I said, you've got 3 minutes to put on a ball cap because we're going to happy hour. Because
good for you.
Going to celebrate.
That's what we did too.
Yes. Even the waitress said, what are you two celebrating? You two are just glowing. And I high-fived her. I said, no chemo. She goes, no chemo, right on. But it's not just no chemo because the courage for the women that have to go through chemo and how they can do it is, I mean, I applaud them endlessly, but it's really about each milestone, each moment that you get through. It's like you don't know what's around the corner. The only thing you can handle is what's in the now, and being able to arrive with that courage with what you're dealing with in the now, and take it one step, truly one day at a time. And patience is authentic spiritual courage. I remember reading that definition years ago in one of my spiritual books. Patience is authentic spiritual courage, knowing that everything has its, principle, divine plan, if you will, and to be able to surrender to what's happening in the now, I think helps the healing process back to wholeness.
I agree.
So cool. It's so cool to get to spend time with the two of you, two very dynamic women that are really using this opportunity, this diagnosis, as an opportunity to help change people's lives. And because of social media, Wendy and I were wondering if, because of our hyper-connectiveness, right, or hyper-interconnectiveness, are you seeing more young patients that are struggling with breast cancer? Because before maybe they weren't so connected, but now they are. How's that changing?
I think it's a really good thing. I think we certainly are. Our numbers are going up, and again, it's never that we want them to go up, but I think that we're reaching further because of the technology, and we're able to connect further than we were. YSC was originally started in New York City by 3 women that then became 13 women, and it was volunteer run for many years, so it was just a New York City thing. And then it started spreading to these affiliates that started popping up, and then they became their own little communities, and now we're this national community. And I think it is because of social media and because of technology that's allowed that to happen so quickly.
I also think you're giving women a safe place to go and connect and give answers. And so by having that safe place, you're going to have more people reach out. And that brings tears to my eyes of how you are contributing.
It's a really important work. I am honored every day. It's an incredible opportunity. I really don't even have the words to be able to explain how much it means that I am paid to travel around the country and meet young survivors and meet people like you guys and meet doctors and researchers who care. It's just like, this is a most amazing opportunity. It's so rewarding. So I love being here.
That which ails us helps align us and gives us purpose, and you've definitely found purpose, and Todd and I have found so much purpose through this. And as we work on Breast Cancer Answers to compile questions and answers and to be helpful, Jennifer, as a survivor and working with young breast cancer patients, what tips would you recommend coming from your firsthand experience and what your connection to all these people have provided?
I would say probably the most important thing is to connect as fast as you can. A personal story about that, I when I was diagnosed, the very first thing my husband and I did that day was sent an email out to our entire network. And it said very, very clearly, Jen has been diagnosed with breast cancer. We are convinced she's not the only young woman who ever has been diagnosed with breast cancer. If you know anyone, ever heard of anyone you can think of, can you please connect them with Jen? And we sent that email out to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. And by that first weekend, which was only about 3 days later, I had who I called my 13 angels. They were internationally. I mean, it was 13 women that through email and on the phone and just Skyping, they got me through that weekend, and every one of them said the same thing. You have to go find YSC. And I was like, okay. I was like, I can't think about a nonprofit right now, but these are my 13 angels, and they got me through it. And so I would say my advice is connect. If you don't have the energy, just connect to YSC and we will connect you immediately. But also ask people in your community. There are a lot of young survivors out there, and you're not alone.
We were really kind of thought we were immune to getting breast cancer because we worked on it on a daily basis around here.
That's right.
And so it was like maybe the
so our karma protects us.
So it was interesting for us, and we were Wendy was diagnosed here in the office, and we thought it was, before we even called our parents, we took everybody here at Breast Cancer Answers and brought them into the room, and we all sat on the floor, and we told them what we were going through, and it allowed us to share with the team a family that was going through it right in front of their eyes, so they could help better educate or nurture another, through our campaign. And we did a video about Wendy and I sharing our story, and that video got quickly 76,000 views.
Wow.
And Jennifer, you wouldn't believe how many women that we work with and that you work with through the breast cancer community that reached out to us privately that said, I know I'm dealing with breast cancer on a daily basis, but I've been putting off my mammogram for 7 years, or I felt a lump, but I'm too scared. We probably, right around 15 women, stopped even counting because it was so common. And I think that's the power that we have, the opportunity we have to really use that power. If we could kind of take a step back, explain Young Survival Coalition one more time while we're all with this, we're all in this conversation. What are the benefits that a young patient gets, and what type of role does the coalition provide?
Okay. Every single resource, every single thing we do for young breast cancer survivors and for their co-survivors, and when we say co-survivor, all we mean is the other person who went through hell with you. It could be your sister, your husband, your girlfriend, your wife, whoever it is. Todd, you're Wendy's. There's pretty much always one main person that, there's lots of people, of course, but there's usually one. So everything that YSC does for survivors and co-survivors is 100% free. And we also have, we're going to be having, the name is changing. It used to be C4YW. The name is now changing to the YSC Summit. But this is the largest gathering in the world of young women with breast cancer all coming together. It's usually between 700 to 900 internationally for education, for connecting, for learning. And so that's an incredible event that'll be coming up in March of 2015. And we're also going to be focusing a lot coming up on everyone's personal pursuit of resiliency, because it's different for everybody. So, we say here a lot, it's about surviving and thriving after you've been diagnosed. And that means something very different to everyone. For me, that means being on the road as much as possible and working myself as hard as I can. That's how I'm doing it. But, it also, for our metastatic community, it means something very different. And there's a lot of different, there's a lot of stuff there around surviving and thriving. So
can I tell you what it means for Wendy?
It
means absolutely embarrassing me on her morning runs. So Wendy wants to survive and thrive, and she wants to put me to shame when we're out there exercising, and she does it.
I don't know. Sometimes it's that morning kiss. Honey, time for a run. No, not today.
You know what I mean?
Well, definitely, again, it's different for everybody.
Right. Good.
Your personal pursuit of that resiliency, we find this strength in ourselves when you know firsthand, and Todd, you too, that you didn't know you had when you were faced against something. So true. And every woman's journey is different. Every part of it is different. But that is similar, that they do find that strength. And you are going to have a new normal. It doesn't, everybody after diagnosis has a new normal. So how do you embrace that, and how do you do something with it that's positive? And I think that's incredibly important.
Well said. Totally.
Yeah.
You know, empowering ourselves, having a new normal, and just what attitude are we taking with us into every day that betters us and betters our situation? Because we can either be investing in our health or we can be costing ourselves our health based on, you know, how we're contributing.
It's true. It is true. I think it's when I started here at YSC, you know, I had not even been diagnosed a year yet, and one of the founding members sent me an email that she wrote in the middle of the night. She just woke up in the middle of the night and she was like, "Oh my God, I have to tell Jen this." So I get this email, and I actually have it. You can barely see it in the picture. It's framed on the wall. It's been blown up. It's framed on the wall, and it talks about when a survivor is first diagnosed, the most important thing she can do is help herself, and that's where you focus. You help yourself. You get through it. And once you're done helping yourself, there's a responsibility to learn the science, learn and understand the disease, and then to take that responsibility to the community. So at first you take care of yourself, and then you take care of the community, because we are a part of a community, and our commitment, just like you two do all the time, is commitment to the community and not about me anymore. It's actually kind of funny because I rarely tell my story or talk about me, because I really read those words on my second day and realized this is about me helping everybody else. But it is about the community, and I think whether you're in a job like mine or a job like you guys, you are part of this community and you can give into it and be a part of it. And I think that's really important.
Wendy and I have a saying, and it's about the first act of the heart, and the first act of the heart is an act of loving self-kindness. Mm-hmm. And what the heart does is it takes the first action, it takes depleted blood, pumps it into the lungs, and then right back into the heart before it sends it to its friends throughout the body. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly the way you just explained it. So your first responsibility is to take care of yourself, and then to take what you've learned, share and spread it so you can nurture other people that are going through it. And there really isn't a bigger honor for us than when we're, like just Wendy, what happened when we came out of Mexican food on Sunday and we got stopped by a woman whose daughter is going through it. And we were there for 20 minutes talking with her and helping to coach her to make sure that when she was with her daughter, she could be a support and help guide her daughter through it. And what an awesome opportunity and responsibility to have. We couldn't have been luckier, and we're so grateful to get to spend time with the amazing Jennifer Merschdorf. Will you make sure that when look, I'm inspired by you, and I know Wendy is, so
I feel like I want to
use
do my
whatever
cartwheels.
terms we want to use, Jennifer, and you'll just enjoy it. So is there an opportunity where we can help you promote your event coming up in March? Please tip us off. We want to be a part of helping to spread this to the Breast Cancer Answers Network, right?
That'd be great.
Because every day we all know that there are other women that are being diagnosed, and so we want to help you make that a success. Wendy, while we've got Jennifer Merschdorf here, is there anything that we haven't asked her that we should?
I'm thinking for Jennifer, is there anything that we haven't asked you that we should? I feel like you've covered that, that whole young survivor coalition and all that you're doing, and the connection, how important connection and support is. So anything that you can add that we might have forgotten to ask?
Well, I think one area that we didn't touch on that I think is really important is the area of research. And YSC is a leader in driving the agenda forward for research around young women with breast cancer. We actually just released a new updated research agenda that we wrote in concert with the top physicians, researchers, and advocates in the country over the last few years. Hopefully the white paper, now embargoed, will be coming out soon. But we have a lot of questions we need to answer about young women with breast cancer. We need to know why it is so different than are postmenopausal women. We also need to know why it is so much more deadly. We need to understand how and why pregnancy ties into it, because there's a lot that ties to that. So there are a lot of questions. YSC does not do research, nor do we fund research. Our role in this is to connect the funder to the researcher and make sure they're focusing on the right questions. So we basically just said, here are the questions. You guys go find the answers. And we will help promote those answers and promote your studies. But there's a lot of work we need to do to answer these questions.
You brought up something really interesting, and since we're in the realm of you bring up the questions and go find the answers, I'll bring up a question you just brought up, and I hope you have the answer.
Okay, if not, I'll tell you.
Yeah, you mentioned that young patients have a higher mortality rate, right?
Yep.
And talk to me about that.
We don't know why. But it, and I will be honest, right in front of me, I do not have the stats, but it is statistically true that young women diagnosed with breast cancer have a higher mortality than older women, and it is more deadly. Some people have thought, the question is, we need to know why. Some thoughts are, is it because there's no screening tool for young women, which is true. Majority of young women have dense breasts. We all know a mammogram does not work on dense breasts, so therefore young women can't properly use mammograms to identify cancers early, really early, like even a DCIS. For the majority of young women, they find a palpable lump, and therefore it has become invasive. So some people think maybe that's the only reason that we have to find it so much later. But then there's a lot of other research to say that actually the disease itself is different in premenopausal versus postmenopausal. So we need answers, and we need to know why is it so different. And that's part of what we've put forward in the research agenda.
Wow, that's really cool. Well, she's Jennifer Merschdorf. She's the Chief Executive Officer of the Young Survival Coalition. And for more information, you can always go to her website at youngsurvival.org. That's Young Survival with an L in survival, right? .org. And for more information, we do recommend that you go and visit their website to get the rest of those details. Jennifer, on behalf of Wendy and I, thank you very much for helping us educate young patients and also let them know about the resources that are available to them.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It was an honor to be here.
Thank you, Jennifer, for your time. So appreciated.
Wendy, I can't wait to meet you in person.
I can't wait either.
I swing through Arizona at some point during the year, so I will make sure we stop and get together.
Yes, no, I agree. That'd be fantastic.
We'll have to make that happen on behalf of everybody here at Breast Cancer Answers. We wish all of you a very healthy and happy week. If you got any questions that aren't in our 1,000 video library now, feel free to post a question or go to our editors and it'll be brought up in one of our next editorial meetings. So on behalf of all of us, we wish you all a very healthy and happy week, and we look forward to being a part of your journey.